What's up, guys? This is Jesse DeRozier with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service here in Lake Guntersville. Today's date is May the 16th, 2025, and this is What's on the Deck. So this week we've continued to see two main groups of fish. Those that are up eating on the bluegill beds, feeding on those bluegill while they're spawning, as well as those fish that are working their way back out towards deeper water. They are literally between 2 foot to 20 foot right now, and it is kind of pick your poison on what your preference is or style of fishing preference would be as to what you can choose to do right now. So if you're a finesse fisherman, you can definitely go up shallow and play around in the shallows with these fish that are feeding on the bluegill. Or if you're a power fisherman, you definitely have that option to get out there and do some scanning and find these fish that are working their way back out towards deeper water. That said, we basically did a little bit of both today. We hit some deeper fish early and then turn around and we went back up into the shallows as that bite kind of tapered off, and played around with some of these fish that were up on the bluegill beds. As a result, we ended up catching about 41 fish today and had a really good trip. That said, we'll go ahead and get started on the baits that we use this week to catch our fish. So, as I had mentioned earlier today, we did get up and play around with the bluegill feeding fish, and for that we did utilize the wacky worm. That has continued to produce all spring and will continue to do so going forward. Up on some of these areas where these bluegill beds are, the bottom is a little bit harder. And where the bottom is harder, you can get away with throwing a couple different options as far as baits. One of the ones that I have really liked is either the Nico rig or just going to a straight shaky head. This week, I utilized more shaky head than Nico rig, and the reason why is because I was using it in both locations, up in the shallows as well as out deep. So, if you notice on there, on that one, it does have some chartreuse added to the tail on that. That's kind of twofold. It does add some scent to the bait, as well as that bright chartreuse pop of color. Anytime that you're working around those bluegill beds, having a little bit of chartreuse on your bait is always a good option. Notice even on that wacky worm, kind of the same deal. These bluegill have a really bright colored tail, as well as having the males having that bright orange breast on them. So taking a little bit of orange Thump Gel, putting that on there, can also add your scent and a little pop of color, is always a good option as well. The fish that are starting to kind of leave those bluegill areas and working their way out deep, they are grouped up in pretty good groups. So if you find a group of them, you can actually hit some numbers pretty quick. One of the best baits that we've found the last couple of weeks for doing that is keeping a lipless on your deck. That right there has continued to put not only numbers but also size in the boat. And the good thing is we're also seeing some fish that are blowing up on the surface, and when that happens, that is a bait that you can definitely cast a long ways, even in the wind, and be able to reach these fish that are, you know, kind of chasing some bait up on the surface further away from your boat. Again, this week, kind of along the same lines, is utilizing a swim jig. You can throw it shallow, you can throw it deeper, but it's coming off the backside of that shad spawn right now, and these fish are definitely looking to feed up on shad. So a swim jig is always a really good option. Next would be keeping still a chatterbait on the deck. We're still catching a lot of fish on chatterbait. So as I'd mentioned, they are feeding up heavily on shad right now. And this bait is one that I've been throwing for a couple of months now, and you can see that there's literally no strands left on the top of it. Even the soft plastic itself is taking a little bit of a beating from the teeth. But it is not going anywhere. I do make sure that all of my soft plastics, whether it be my underspins or chatterbait, swim jig, whatever it is, I take the time, add a drop of glue to make sure that those trailers stay in place, and that has saved me a lot of money by doing that. And so that is something that I would highly recommend. If you don't have that glue in your boat, I would definitely get that added. Next is going to be the same deal, chatterbait, but a 3/4 ounce chatterbait. Taking that and working that out deeper. When I say deeper, say the first one we're working 4 to 6 foot of water, the 3/4 ounce we're actually working out in 8, 9, and 10 foot of water. What we're looking for there are those isolated clumps of hydrilla, milfoil, coontail, or the outer grass line, whether it be eelgrass or any of these grasses. A lot of these fish, as they're moving out, are running these outside grass lanes or the grass lines and traversing back up and down these grass lines. So taking these deeper chatterbaits and being able to run those grass lines out there is a really good option. As I had mentioned, there have been a lot of topwater action going on. Now, it's not, when I say a lot of topwater action, it's not like big schools of topwater. But each time we'd move to a location and we pull up on a spot, we might see 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 different times while we're sitting there a fish somewhere around us coming up and blowing up on the surface. So by keeping that ready to go, laying out on the deck, that or the lipless, either one, and being able to get that out there, we've been able to pick up, 1 or 2 fish extra just by having that ready to go. So not that we're seeing huge numbers on that, but we are seeing that going on in a lot of different places, that we're seeing 1 fish or 2 fish kind of in a little blow up here or there. Again, moving out deeper, as I had mentioned, even out on the ledges, still going with a shaky head in that same color scheme. Today we ended up on a school that had some spotted bass in it, and spotted bass really do like a straight tail worm, so I ended up picking up just a straight tail worm today and throwing that on that school, and caught quite a few spots, some really good quality spots today as well. And then also still utilizing that June bug ultra vibe speed worm. The water definitely has a little bit of color on it, or in it, out on the main lake, so the June bug definitely is a really good option whenever you're in the kind of those stained water areas, or as we had today, had those darker skies. So getting away from the soft plastics as far as worms, but still a soft plastic swim bait. The Dirty Jigs 3/8 ounce guppy head underspin with that Reaction Innovations Little Dipper has been money, not just recently, but I mean, I've been throwing that basically since fall. It really has not left my deck. That is a dynamite little bait there. So the next baits are all kind of ledge oriented. So whether it's dragging, rutting, or working mid-water column, these next baits are definitely ones that you'll want to have on your deck going into ledge season. So a wobble head is definitely a good option to keep on there. You can run your bait of choice, whether it be a beaver style, that was a rage craw, a menace grub works great. Basically any kind of a craw pattern or craw style bait is a really good option. Next is going to be a football head jig, whether it be a 1/2 ounce, a 3/4, or 1 ounce bait, kind of according to the amount of current that you have as well as the depth of the area that you're working. But you can literally crawl that on the bottom, just slow reeling it. You can kind of hop it and work it along the bottom. Or one of the techniques that you don't see many guys doing any longer is that of actually snatching the jig up off the bottom, basically like you would the flutter spoon, the same exact way. So it's a technique that these fish have not seen a lot of in recent years, just due to the fact that there's a lot of other techniques that have kind of taken precedence, especially that, like a jig head minnow. So it's just something different that they haven't seen that might get you some of those bigger bites. Another really good option is going to be that of rutting bottom, and in so doing that, I am taking still my DT10 in those areas that are like 8 to 12 foot, rutting that on the bottom, and then also as we've worked our way out deeper, getting into that 12 to 16 foot of water is the 6XD. I want to be able to get that down and actually rut that in the bottom and create a disturbance down there. So right now, I have not seen a lot of crankbaits, so you can definitely get away with throwing ones that have rattles. The longer that goes, you'll definitely want to be kind of starting to lean more towards silent the more and more that they start seeing these baits. Mid-water column, again, those fish that, say when the current starts to slow down, they start to suspend up in the water column. Really good option that we saw this past week was that of a flutter spoon. I did have an 8-inch tied on. One of my clients was throwing it, hooked the fish, and the swivel actually made its way off of the split ring while fighting the fish, and we ended up losing that 8-inch flutter spoon. So I did tie this 5-inch on, and we've been tossing it around in the meantime until I can get me another one back in the boat. I need to do that tonight and go ahead and get that back in here. Last but not least, on that aspect of kind of that mid-water column, those suspended fish, is going to be a hair jig. This is a dynamite bait on the Tennessee River, and if you are a ledge fisherman, that definitely needs to be on your deck right now. Let the position of the fish dictate which presentation that you're going to go with. If they're down glued to the bottom, obviously stick with something that's down making contact with the bottom. If they are suspended up, some of these other techniques of flutter spoon, snatching a jig, or the hair jig might be a better option, or a jig head minnow. The last technique that we did this week was breaking out the wake baits. The bullwhite gill and the bullwhite shad both have been producing some really good quality fish. It's such a fun bite. If you guys do not have one of these yet, I would highly recommend ordering you one. I believe they are on back order at this point just due to it's that season. But that bite's going to be going on for quite some time, so I would highly recommend adding that to your arsenal. It's kind of an addictive bite, so once you start getting bit on that and figuring out the right places to be able to throw that, you'll be amazed at what you can catch on that bait. But that's basically it for this week, guys. I hope this information helps you out in the week coming up. Hope to see you guys out on the lake, and until next week, tight lines.